interviews and the like, it crosses over a lot into public corruption,
Yeah.
where you'll have, kind of organized crime guys dealing with politicians, whether it be through campaign finance violations or just straight up bribery
Yeah.
or emergency bid contracts, all the things that New Jersey kind of tends to bring to light. And, New York, I was in the New York office for a couple of years. And they always are like, we got the best cases. I got to be honest, nobody had as great cases as the Newark office. I mean, just everything, just stuff going on left and right, whether it be guys who had their shore houses and then they would, travel back and forth. There was a dude, Tino Fiumara. You guys are familiar
Yeah.
with Tino. So we had a long-term surveillance and wiretap on his stuff that I think he passed away at this
He
point.
passed. He moved to Long Island when he got out, which I thought was interesting. I was surprised.
Yeah.
Why. I was wondering why. And he
was a bat guy. He liked to hit people over the head with bats. So my old man, as an arson investigator in the fire department, used to tell stories about this dude who used to like to smack people around with bats. So when we ultimately arrested Tino, I got the opportunity to kind of be there. I was one of the bosses, and kind of said to him, "Hey, my dad was looking at you for arson." And who was your dad? Freddie Diorio. He's like, "Yeah, one of the most respectful guys I've ever met." So I'm like, "Yeah, no, I know." And so you guys are like this. I never saw my father interrogate anyone, obviously.
Yeah.
Young kid, but he was late 60s, started the arson squad in Newark during the riots. There were shit burning left and right, and he was just going crazy. And it's got to be more than that now. It's got to be 10 years ago. A young prosecutor who worked for my dad, with my dad, who became the Ocean County prosecutor, a guy named Joe Carnado. He's a great dude. He said, "Jimmy, I have some old tapes, some old VCR tapes of your dad, doing interrogations that I kind of had kept." He probably wasn't supposed to. Sorry, Joe. But he said,
nobody's watching, really.
Yeah. Would you like them? And I said, "Sure. Yeah, I would love to, And I put them in, and I'm like, "Oh my God,
I would start crying.
that's the style. That's my style." Never had a clue, so it kind of carried over. But ultimately, I mean, I think it's a target-rich environment here in New Jersey. But all of these guys are, they're good family men who just are looking for a way to make a little bit more money than they could potentially make in a legitimate, business. I mean, that's really what it comes down to,
Yeah. And again, I told you I had some really important questions to ask. And there's anybody who watches the show, I have a few hangups on. It's one of those things that I am straight as an arrow. I don't do any crime. I follow a crime. I deal with that all day. So you see, I'm a busy guy, welcome to the studio. No, but I'm a family guy, as you can tell. But my thing is, did the mob go wrong where it could have and should have been more of a Freemasonry and become more of a white collar thing? Maybe live off the legacy of the past. They could they could hurt you maybe someday, but maybe go into legitimate business and be like 87% legal. And then you guys from the feds would be like, you know what? That guy's he's done doing crime. Let me leave him alone. So do you think they kind of messed up? I know Castellano was trying to go that way. I think even Carlo Gambino was going that way. Do you think that's where the mob messed up by not gentrifying, if you will, or not kind of becoming mainstream?
Well, it all becomes yes and no, right? So it all becomes kind of a part of flying under the radar. It doesn't matter what crime is out there. It's kind of a scaling deal for us. Can we scale enough to look at every chiropractor who's stealing more than $100,000?
Yeah.
And probably, chiropractors go, all right, just stay at 99. But that's not truthful either. But I think that's right. I mean, I think that the bottom line is, are we really going to worry so much about those little onesies and twosies at this point if there's bigger fish to fry? And quite frankly, the federal prosecutors at this point, and they'll tell you this straight up, there's thresholds for crime.
Yeah.
So, it might be $1 million threshold for white collar crime. Yeah. So that yes is my answer on the side of, could they have, done just fine staying mostly legit, like a I guess like a fictional author who has some nonfiction to the piece, right? Like if I were to go write a book, I would write it in that fashion. I would write it in Nelson DeMille fashion, as opposed to writing another nonfiction about the FBI that I would have to go through 16 years of certifications, get everything redacted, and have a piece of shit, manuscript. As opposed to just saying, hey, 80% of it is fake, 20% of it is true. Let the reader figure it out.
Yeah.